So we've talked about April 29th, 2024, the night before, and April 30th of 2024. And now let's get to the part of the story where I, processed it and discussed surgery with my family. Being told on that Tuesday, I had surgery ready to go on that Wednesday. I emailed the doctor back Wednesday morning and said, I made my decision, because he sent me home saying, think this over, it's major surgery, and let's talk about options and what you guys think as a family. And I emailed him within 24 hours and said, just take it out, schedule it, take it out. And when we scheduled it, insurance went through. It took that week for insurance to go through. And it was a Friday that they submitted the case of insurance. So I saw him Tuesday. Insurance was submitted on that Friday. And within 20 or 30 minutes, insurance approved this surgery, which was incredible considering I spent 2 months fighting insurance to try and get an original appointment. So 30 minutes, insurance was approved, surgery was scheduled, and it was fast-paced environment. I went from, I've got meetings next week and stuff I have to do next week, to wait, I'm not going to be here next week, I'm going to be in surgery next week. And in the meantime of meeting him and surgery, I went back to my 9-year doctor. And I sat down and I told him I got the second opinion and I have a brain tumor. He was not puzzled. He was not fazed. He said, okay. And then I said, yeah, and they're taking it out. He said, okay, great. When? Couple months? I said, no, they're taking it out on Monday. And his literal reaction was, oh, wow, they're moving quickly. I said, yeah, they're saying it's emergency surgery. It's not emergent to come out this very day because you're not symptomatic, but this can't go on another month. This is coming out. And he said, okay, do you have any questions for me? And my mom, my boyfriend, and I just looked at him so confused. I mean, now maybe 48 or 72 hours has passed since finding out the word brain tumor. So we just looked at him and, no, I don't think so. What do you even ask somebody in that situation when they're so unfazed and you went 9 years of believing him that you have nothing wrong, and then you meet Cedars-Sinai and you're told, we need to save your life? And then he sits there and says, do you have any questions? What? I have a lot of questions, but I don't know how to ask you a single question. This appointment with this doctor, who I never saw again after this day, because he said to me, Cedars-Sinai will be in charge of your care from here on out, and never followed up after surgery or how I was doing or pathology or anything. But the last time I saw him in this appointment, which lasted easy 5 minutes, it was an easy 5 minutes of sitting with him and walking out of the building. But the last words he said to me was, don't worry, Katie, brain surgery doesn't even hurt. And I just remember looking at him and saying, okay, because what do I know? And walking out and just being confused and, getting ready for surgery and being okay, bye, never see you again kind of feeling, and okay, hi, let's go save my life on Monday. And now that I've, had the surgery and it's been 2 years and I'm in the recovery phases of everything and understanding it all, when he said brain surgery doesn't hurt, I understand the internal idea that he was presenting, that inside my actual brain, there is no pain. I can understand that and I can appreciate that much. But the actual surgery, the recovery of your nerves being sliced and having to reform your skull Not to mention, I have 17 screws on this side of my head, fusing my skull back together, that feel like the top of a knuckle. They feel just like that. Like if you were to touch my head right now, it feels like that. And I didn't know any of that going in, obviously. I didn't have any questions. It was just take it out. So then waking up a couple months later when I'm like healing and feeling, I'm like, what is that? I've never noticed that my skull feels like that until you realize what it actually is. And knowing that he could say to you, me, a patient, anyone, a practicing doctor, it won't hurt. I can promise you it hurts. The inside, sure, I was asleep, don't remember a thing, woke up, very funny. Cool, it doesn't hurt. The recovery, the scar, the metal, the sleeping on a pillow every night like a normal human being, I don't do that. I can't sleep on this side of my head because of how bad it hurts. And I have, I guess, really thin, it's like a really thin, I don't know the medical terms, but they use the smallest hardware that they possibly had because of how thin everything was. And we did have talks of, should we remove the hardware and are you going to be okay? And I deal with it. I deal with it 24/7. I deal with a level 8, 9, 10 pain. I'm a super high functioning pain tolerance now. But it doesn't hurt, right? That's the last thing he said. And this is also where more anger set in with him. And I'm really, like I said, I wanted to share this story to help somebody. Now, the next portion of this whole talk was surgery, right? Showing up for surgery. I had to get a surgery clearance, never done that before. I did blood work, I did a scan where they put all these stickers all over my head and essentially mapped my brain out. I found everything extremely fascinating, and I still do. And I remember just being super excited about everything because I think I was so innocent of the idea of what was going to happen. I just my mind was as big as, we're showing up on Monday, you're going to take it out, I'm going to go home on Tuesday, and I'm going to go live a completely normal life. And I don't fault anyone for those feelings other than myself of the innocence of that. But I would go through surgery 100 more times versus living life after surgery and recovery. Recovery and survivorship is so not talked about. And I don't think I was really prepared for what survivorship looked like. And that's a whole separate video, because you go in as one person and then you're ripped to pieces and you go through 9 months of chemo and 6 weeks of radiation. And I haven't even gotten to the part of having a stroke and a seizure and being in the ICU and recovering from that and taking my eggs out and being 25 and confused as to what does it mean to bank an egg. And then you're thrown into the world. You're thrown right back in, and I'm looking at my career and I'm saying, okay, there's no way the FA is going to say yes to any of this that I've just been through. So now let's deal with diagnosis, being misled, recovery, and welcome back to the world. And I really could spend years talking about survivorship. And maybe that's what we'll do next. But I want to discuss the surgery first. So let's get into it.